I want to present on three theories or frameworks, which provide a ton of guidance for the content in the series. And so I want to start by acknowledging and expressing gratitude for the wisdom of and work of others that laid a solid path before us and continue to do so. And I'm going to focus on three kind of fields or frameworks. So I want to start with the field and practice of culturally responsive evaluation, or CRE. And there's going to be some scholarly stuff in here, folks. I'm sorry, but I just kind of have to do it. And I want to do it because I think it's important. So this originated from work around culturally relevant pedagogy and responsive evaluation. And original scholars of this work include Stafford Hood, Rodney Hobson, Karen Kirkhart, Henry Frierson, Robert Stake, Melvin Hall, and Jerry Spilka. So I want to name these early contributors to, one, express my gratitude, but also to combat erasure and potential for co-option of their work, as cultural responsiveness becomes an especially popular term today. I was really moved when a colleague of mine, in the beginning of a large series like this, Dr. Kirill Askew, named 40 scholars and practitioners in the beginning, just as a way to acknowledge and express gratitude. So I also want to recognize that there's a really active center for learning more about culturally responsive evaluation that holds an annual conference and is a good starting point for learning more about CRE. And that's the Center for Culturally Responsive Eval and Assessment, based in the University of Illinois. Okay, so when thinking about CRE, we have to center culture in every aspect of the eval process. But and as an example, that's, centering culture when identifying your purpose, engaging stakeholders, designing the eval, to analyzing the data. So what does that look like? Thankfully, there's a lot of work done around this question, and I'm going to talk through two elements of culture which come from Karen Kirkhart in 2013. So I mentioned voice earlier, and someone else did as well. So voice addresses whose perspectives are magnified and whose are silenced. It maps inclusion and exclusion or marginalization, and includes the use of language, jargon, and communication strategies. It raises questions around who participates in the planning, design, and implementation of the eval, whose messages are heard and heeded, whose methods of communication are reflected in the languages and expressions that are used to discuss the eval process, raise questions, interpret findings, and communicate results. Return supports reciprocity by focusing attention on how the evaluation and the persons who conduct it return benefit to the evaluated and the surrounding community. It addresses returns both during and after the eval process and positions the evaluation as non-exploitive. It raises questions about how does the eval advance the goals of the community to serve the needs of its people? Has the benefit returned to the community compensated them fairly for their time and attention, and for any disruption created by the evaluation? In what ways are people better off, and have they been harmed or disadvantaged? That's CRE in a nutshell, and I feel like I'm not giving it justice. You can move to the next slide, please.
Well, and just a note that this isn't like one slide and then we're never coming back to these. This is sort of, in this first session, just laying a very basic foundation, and we'll come back to these ideas over and over.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. Yeah, that's kind of the dilemma that I feel like I was faced here, is to give you all a bunch of theory on the first presentation, when in fact we're going to spend a lot more time in kind of community working groups and less presenting, but there's this tension with making sure that you have some of the terms and exposure to things in the front end. Okay, so I'm going to move to participatory evaluation, and it's an approach that involves community stakeholders in the eval process. And in participatory evaluation, practitioners, students, and community members can all step into the driver's seat. If you take anything from the slide, and I'm not going to go through all my notes for the sake of time, it's that you and your stakeholders might all take part in leading some part of the evaluation, like designing the instrument, analyzing the data, or setting the goal, or using the results. So I'm going to finish with the eEval framework, and start by saying that I'm super privileged to be a part of this team, which is learning alongside several brilliant evaluators throughout the country. Some folks may have been exposed to this already. So the framework was designed for evaluating environmental education and is heavily informed by CRE. The framework has two main elements. There are the eEval values and the eEval processes. The 6 values are equity in motion, You got the website up there. Great. Equity in motion. I'll get authentic engagement, deep curiosity, lifelong learning, and quality redefined. Oh, and sharing and shared learning. These are different from what's on the paint palette. These are the updated ones. These values imbue all of the technical elements of the evaluation listed on the right-hand side. So take a second and consider the metaphor of the paint palette and the paint brushes. So when conducting an evaluation, we can have lots of tools at our disposal. They're like paintbrushes, if you will. And these include data analysis and collection, communicating and sharing results, and building relationships within community. Now, the work we do with those tools, or the effect that we make, is kind of like the picture we paint. It's comprised of the colors in our palette, or values. Essentially, what the metaphor is trying to convey is to make clear a strong set of values and guidance for how we might implement those values within an evaluation.